All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming and for surviving the filibuster. And I definitely want to thank the Speaker and the Chairman for being flexible with their schedules, as well as a set of our allies with the NJ4Transit Coalition. My name is Doug O'Malley. I'm one of the co-chairs of the coalition. I'm also the Director of Environment New Jersey. And I'm honored to be joined by a broad set of our allies, including Tri-State Transportation Campaign, AAA, ATU, and the Anti-Poverty Network. We're here because Governor Christie can filibuster, but he can't filibuster our transit crisis. And the governor is now resorting to finger-pointing on our transit crisis. And that's despite the fact New Jersey Transit suffers from a legacy of underinvestment that's created a generation of neglect for our transit riders. And transit riders can't ignore, and Governor Christie said this during the press conference, that he doesn't care what's on the pages of the Star Ledger editorial page. Well, quite frankly, transit riders can't ignore our transit crisis because they're stuck on trains and buses, and they're paying right now the highest fares in America. And this is where, if the governor isn't going to address our transit crisis, we need our allies. We're thankful for the Speaker and for the Chairman for speaking out not only on TTF, but the importance of New Jersey Transit and ensuring that we don't see another round of fare hikes and service cuts. Because this problem is a crisis that is self-made by the governor. We are on the cusp, obviously, of a potential strike for New Jersey Transit, a strike that really is a legacy of underinvestment in transit. We've already seen what a contingency plan looks like during Hurricane Sandy. It doesn't work. And transit acknowledged today that more than 65,000 riders are essentially on their own. This, unfortunately, is an unwelcome taste of what could come if one of the tunnels into New York is shut down. And that's a future that we don't want to have to suffer. Now, Governor Christie obviously famously endorsed Donald Trump. Here in New Jersey, we want to make New Jersey Transit great again, because mass transit is obviously more than just getting point A to B. It's about creating real economic opportunity in the state. It's making sure that we have cleaner air and reducing our global warming emissions. And it's also about providing equity to ensure there's affordable transit for all of us to get around. And really, that's the genesis of the New NJ4Transit report that was authored by the Tri-State Transportation Campaign today. And that genesis is that we've seen this legacy of underinvestment in transit, and it's been a generation of neglect. And Jana Chernitz from Tri-State Transportation is going to speak next on the report's findings. But quite simply, we need to fully fund New Jersey Transit. We can't keep relying on these ongoing raids. Jana?
Thank you, Doug. I'm Jana Chernitz. I'm the New Jersey Policy Director for Tri-State Transportation Campaign. I'd like to thank everyone for participating and for waiting out the governor's filibuster of this press conference. The impressive attendance for this event shows just how critical of an issue that transportation funding is in New Jersey and how it affects a diversity of interests. And before I talk about the report that brings us all here today, I do want to thank Ryan Hall, who was our staff analyst, who was the brains behind this analysis. He is the staff analyst for Tri-State Transportation Campaign, and he's also here if you have any particular questions about the methodology. This report is an essential illustration of the depth of our transportation funding crisis here in New Jersey. It is March 3rd, and the governor's budget has been released. It includes transportation capital spending authorization without an indication of how that will be funded. It also continues to underfund New Jersey Transit's operating budget. The analysis today takes a look at New Jersey Transit funding over the 15 years and the consequences of the underfunding that the state will face. We hope that this analysis will impact in a positive way the discussions that are about to take place this month and next as we move into the budget portion of the legislature. In terms of capital, investment in transit, according to our analysis, has decreased by 20%, and that decrease is up to 30% from 2004. On the flip side, ridership in the same amount of time has grown by 20%. What does this mean? This means increased delays, an overcrowding, and a transit that does not meet the needs of the state. Where has all of the money gone? Right now, the money is going to operating. The New Jersey direct subsidy has decreased by 90%, and that money has to come from somewhere. That decreased state subsidy is forcing New Jersey Transit into cannibalistic funding practices to help keep the agency afloat. Since New Jersey Transit has been transferring from their capital to meet their operating needs, they have transferred $6.5 billion. That's enough money to support a multi-year capital program in and of itself. And so this $6.5 billion is enough to pay for the much-needed expansion projects here in New Jersey and then have some money left over. What New Jersey needs now is a solution, because in 2017, New Jersey Transit is going to face another operating deficit, similar to the operating deficit that it saw last year, the one that precipitated a 9% fare hike and service cuts. The governor must work with the legislature to resolve this issue and put New Jersey back on the path to fiscal solvency. Last year's New Jersey Transit operating budget was balanced on the backs of New Jersey Transit riders. And this year, it's Trenton's turn to figure out how to resolve the budget gap. So again, I'd like to thank everybody here today. And again, we urge the governor and the legislature to work together to solve this issue during the upcoming budget discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jana. And for those of you that have watched the presidential debates, you'll know that the candidates always raise their hand in the air when they get an attack. And I think the speaker, got to mention, maybe more than just a mention during the governor's filibuster. But we're proud to have the speaker here to talk about real solutions to our transportation crisis.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for sticking around and coming to this, because it's very important. New Jersey Transit is so important to the residents of the state of New Jersey. I have an anti-poverty campaign that transportation is a major component, because that cannot be a barrier for people to getting to work. So that is very instrumental of something we're trying to do this year. Capital improvement to New Jersey Transit is essential, as we need to fund the Transportation Trust Fund. For the last 4 years, been talking about it. As I became speaker 2 years ago, was one of the focal points that I talked about it, that we need to do that, because we need to be able to invest on our infrastructure, on our roadways and in our rail. So it's very important, as the riders of New Jersey Transit went from 5 years ago, the largest rate increase that was over 20%, I want to say maybe 22% and 9%. So you're talking about 9% this past year, you're talking over 30%, so about almost a third more than they were paying to the people that needed the most to be able to get to work. And if those people cannot ride on transit, our roads will get clogged. We will be at a standstill. Now, you heard today, the governor talked about it, that it's sort of our problem, or more or less it begins as the Assembly's problem, because anything that raises a tax, we would start it, and it talks about that there has not been conversations. And it's kind of interesting, as most of you that know me, I never bring notes with me for anything, because I don't really read notes. I have an excellent memory. And talking about that, I actually brought something, so just to come back, that the governor is a partner in this and needs to be a partner, because we need to come to a solution. Number one, he said, there isn't a crisis, but then he actually then sort of corrected himself. Well, there won't be a crisis until July 1st. I said, we all know that. TTF runs out June 30th. As it was said here before, this last year was cobbled together with taking money from New Jersey Transit to really almost duct tape and crazy glue to get to where we're supposed to get. His 5-year plan that he actually says he did not raise any taxes, it was literally borrowed completely. So they are raising taxes on our children and our grandchildren and future generations. That's why we have to do something with a revenue stream. I have made the tough call for a gas tax. I haven't said that that's the only option. I have made that tough call, and I don't want people to pay more at the pump, but actually, we wanted to make sure it was constitutionally dedicated to make sure that it goes to the right place. When the governor says that it's us to put it on his table, I actually looked here, NJ Spotlight, September 23rd of 14. There is, and I'm going to actually read it, and if I find it, what actually talks about me here talking to leadership to potentially increase the motor fuels tax and, maybe a gas tax. But it says here that Governor Christie, that's Governor Christie's goal too. As he said on 101.5, ask the governor, call and show night he nominated Fox. We will sit down and talk with Senate President, the Speaker, and the Republican legislative leaders and see what we can agree upon in order to fund our roads and bridges and upkeep, repair appropriate level, and also make sure what we deal with issues of taxation in this state, and it's in a way that it's fair to the people. Now, that to me sounds that there was some type of negotiations, and I can tell you, when I get called out on something that for me to put it on his desk, listen, we could always do that, but we want to make sure it's something that we can agree upon. We did have negotiations, and I have some of his thoughts that he gave me. I have the paperwork that we have back and forth until January of 15th when the negotiations broke down because suddenly, he had other aspirations, and he can blame the legislature we were running. I was happy to do it as long as we all did it together. So that's not accurate. So bottom line, we need to do a TTF. It's essential to the state of New Jersey. This press conference, as I had heard, was supposed to be about economics and jobs. You know what? Talk to the Chamber of Commerce. It is about economics. They have talked about that this is something important to do for the economy of the state of New Jersey and for jobs of the state of New Jersey. So again, he is off mark. So I am telling you, I know I'm on the right side of this issue, and I am proud to make sure we get something to his desk, but we want to make sure it's something that's doable. It has to be sufficient amount of money to do all the things we need to do, and it has to be for a substantial length of time as no money clears off until like 2028. So we don't want to do this again in a few years. It has to be a strong TTF that doesn't rely a large amount on borrowing. So I am here and I am committed to make sure that New Jersey Transit gets its fair share, as the numbers that we're talking about, decrease in funding 20%. My number, I heard 20% increase in ridership. I had thought I'd read like 24% in ridership. So it is not adequate, that we need more and we're giving them less. We need to do a better job, and we need to get the TTF done. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker Prieto. Next we will have Assembly Transportation Committee Chairman John Wisniewski.
Thank you, Jen. For those of you watching or perhaps reading, the question always comes to mind, why should I care about New Jersey Transit? This doesn't apply to me, some of you may think. The reality is no matter what you do, where you live, New Jersey Transit is important to you. If you drive your car to work, New Jersey Transit is what takes thousands of other cars off the road every day by providing bus and train service. And when New Jersey Transit doesn't function properly, those people wind up on the roads, making your commute longer and more difficult and more expensive. If you're an employer in New Jersey, your employees take New Jersey Transit to get to work. If you have a business in New Jersey, you understand that your location in New Jersey and its availability to mass transit is important to your economic success. The reality is that New Jersey Transit is a vital cog in New Jersey's economic engine, and without proper funding, that cog doesn't work as well. And we've seen over the past decade systematic decreases in the amount of operational subsidy for New Jersey Transit. The administration may parse words on this and say, well, they found other sources of money. The reality is those are sources of money that this governor himself has criticized for other administrations in the past in using one-shot, one-time, non-repeatable revenue sources to sustain New Jersey Transit. The reality is the path for operations that New Jersey Transit is on today is non-sustainable. We've seen ridership go up, and we've seen real-term inflation-adjusted dollars go down. You can't run one of the nation's largest transportation systems on a hope and a prayer. You need real money and real investment. And that does not begin to even talk about the capital dollars that are not going into New Jersey Transit every single day. I get the emails, I see the tweets and the Facebook posts about people who go to work every day, and they're late because the train is late. They're late because there's traffic and there's congestion, or they can't get their bus into the Port Authority bus terminal. These are real-world consequences of our failure to invest. And our failure to invest in a capital sense, I mean, there's no bigger looming example than the absence of a new Trans-Hudson rail tunnel. If that tunnel were to fail, and we've heard the head of Amtrak say that in the next 5 to 10 years, 1 or 2 of those tubes will have to be taken out of service. That would be an economic disaster for the state of New Jersey and all of our citizens. We need to invest both on a transportation operation side and a capital side. And I'm in support with the Speaker of the Assembly. I have a bill in to call for a 25-cent a gallon gas tax increase. We need to invest, and we need to recognize that there is no substitute for investment. And if we believe that there is money somewhere hidden in the budget that we can just simply find these mythical horsemen of waste, fraud, and abuse, that's never been found before. It's never been done before. The reality is we're not paying our bills with the money we have. We're not paying our pension obligations. We're not paying our education obligations. We're not paying our health care obligations. So if somebody believes there's some mythical pot of money in the budget that we can now take for transportation, they're not looking at the real numbers. We need to invest. We need to raise the money to invest. The only way to make this agency successful is to, quite frankly, put the money in it, but ultimately find new leadership for it, because under the current leadership, it's not working. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Wisniewski. Also, part of this press conference today was Senate President Sweeney and Senator Laura Weinberg, who weren't able to make it today, but do support the investment in transit, both on the transit operating side and the transit capital side, and have consistently called for an increase in transportation funding, a capital program that supports New Jersey's transportation needs, including bringing roads and bridges into a state of good repair, as well as investing in our transit needs, and has called for a $2 billion, at least a $2 billion capital program moving forward. So New Jersey for Transit Coalition appreciates the support that the legislative leadership has provided to restore fiscal solvency to our transportation funding crisis. And we do hope that the governor needs to work with this leadership. The leadership is there. They are ready. They are willing to work. We need a governor who is willing to work with them. And the clock is ticking. We need to do this now. So again, we thank you for the legislative support behind this very, very important initiative. Now I'd like to turn to our New Jersey for Transit Coalition members to come up and speak. And as I said, we have a diverse member of coalition members because transportation really does impact everyone in every aspect of their lives. So I'd like to first call on Serena Rice to talk about the analysis.
Thank you. My name is Serena Rice. I'm the Executive Director of the Anti-Poverty Network of New Jersey. We're a broad coalition of partners working to prevent, reduce, and end poverty in New Jersey. And I am here today because transit is absolutely a poverty issue, as the speaker pointed out already. And that's because work is an anti-poverty issue. And in order to get to work, particularly low-wage workers need access to good transit. I hear a lot about the importance of work as an anti-poverty advocate. Sometimes I hear it from people who are skeptical about government assistance programs because that they think that they are handouts for people who should just work harder. Work is seen as the foundation for a fair system where everyone pulls their own weight. I also hear about the importance of work from people themselves, people who are desperate to work, and people who are working, often more than one job, but who are dealing with the reality that work alone just doesn't pay the bills in a high-cost state like New Jersey. And of course, one of those bills is getting harder to pay as transportation gets more expensive. And that's why having an affordable, reliable public transit system is vitally important as an anti-poverty issue. For low-wage workers, the cost of car ownership is often out of the question. And the distance between jobs that they can find and the homes that they can afford leaves them with just one option: public transportation. But if we're looking for a fair system where everyone pulls their own weight, recent trends in transit investment are not the place to look. New Jersey has asked riders to pay more and more, with 5 fare hikes since 2002. Yet, as the report makes clear, the state has not contributed its fair share. At a time when wages are stagnant, poverty is growing, and millions are struggling just to make ends meet and just to make it to work, the state must do better for working families who depend on public transit. If we want to grow our economy, we need to stop making it harder for our workers to get to work. And this means reversing the trend of disinvestment in public transit. Public transportation is an irreplaceable link between people and work. And reinvesting in transit means investing in work. Thank you.
Thank you, Serena. Our next coalition member and presenter will be Kathleen Lewis from AAA.
Thank you very much. I have to thank Tri-State for putting this report together to really highlight the problems that we have and what happens when we don't have a properly and consistently funded public transportation system. In a state that's as congested as New Jersey, where our roadways cannot take on additional capacity, where our commutes are already above the national average, and where 45% of commuters say that their commutes have gotten worse over the last 2 years, an affordable, accessible public transportation system is a necessity. When asked by AAA, 20% of transit riders said that fare increases are going to change their commuting habits. If 20% of New Jersey riders got back in their cars, that would equate to 180,000 additional car trips each week. Simply put, there's no place to put those cars on our roadways. That's why AAA is here today and asking that New Jersey Transit be properly and consistently funded to ensure that residents have a viable, affordable, accessible alternative to the roadways. We cannot look at solving our transportation infrastructure problems by just looking at our roads. We need to make sure that a comprehensive infrastructure solution includes public transportation and that it's affordable and accessible. And that's why I'm so happy that legislative leadership, both the Speaker and the Chairman, as well as the support from the Senate, are here today and have come to the table to make sure that a comprehensive infrastructure funding solution is achieved.
Thank you, Kathleen. So as you heard from our coalition members, how the chronic underfunding of New Jersey Transit and the Transportation Trust Fund has affected those customers of New Jersey Transit. But the underfunding has also affected those who provide the transit service. So I'll now call upon Ray Greaves from ATU to discuss how the underfunding has affected his representation.
Thank you, Jana. Ray Greaves, I'm the chairman for the Amalgamated Transit Union here in New Jersey. And I just want to first recognize my coalition partners and all the work that they do on a daily basis trying to find transportation funding and sustainable transit here for the residents and the commuters and the workers here in New Jersey. And I want to also commend our leadership with Speaker Vincent Prieto and Chairman John Wisniewski for their leadership. Unfortunately, here in New Jersey, we have a governor who doesn't share their vision and their leadership. We have a part-time governor with a full-time travel expenses who's been running around this country and doesn't spend 1 minute trying to fix the Transportation Trust Fund here in New Jersey. We have over 4,000 employees in rail who are about to go on strike because this governor fails to recognize the need for sustainable mass transit funding. We have 5,000 employees on the bus side who went 5 years without a contract because this governor refuses to recognize the fact that we need sustainable mass transit funding. You know, it wasn't too long ago that the ATU, along with our partners on the municipal level, Mayor Fulop and Mayor Baraka, put together a coalition called Fight the Hike. Well, the unions were out there with our elected officials, with our leadership here, to try to fight the hike, because we know what it means to people who are struggling to get by, to get to work, to get to their doctor's appointments, our students to get to school. A 35% fare hike in the 6.5 years with this governor in office is deplorable, deplorable. And to cut operational spending by 90% is just reckless. It's reckless for our commuters, it's reckless for our workers, and it's reckless for all the people here in the state of New Jersey. So again, we need a full-time governor with a vision for transportation who's willing to work with the people on the other side of the aisle to fix this transportation trust fund and to fix the crisis, Governor Christie, the crisis here in New Jersey when it comes to mass transportation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. We've talked about the economic impacts that transportation has in New Jersey, its effect on jobs, but it also affects the environment. And we are also proud to have environmental members of our New Jersey for Transit Coalition. So I'd like to invite up to speak Jeff Tittle. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank leadership for being here. I think, you know, the governor who says there's not a crisis is confusing his campaign bus with the New Jersey Transit bus, and I suggested he go out and try to go somewhere on one of those New Jersey Transit buses because the wheels are falling off, they're overcrowded, they're late. And what we see from this administration is fares going up, services going down, more broken rail cars. And what it means to the commuters of New Jersey is not only loss of time and going to work, cranky after being stuck in traffic because your train is late, but more importantly, it means more people drive. And more driving not only puts more stress on our roads, it adds to more and more air pollution. We're trying in New Jersey to see growth and redevelopment in our urban areas, and some of them are booming like Jersey City and Newark. But it's dependent on rail, and it's dependent on bus. It's not dependent on cars. So if we don't invest in New Jersey Transit, we're also going to undermine economic development in the areas we want it while promoting sprawl in rural areas. We believe that for every dollar we invest in mass transit, we make it back tenfold, whether it's in economic activity, whether it's in savings on air pollution and greenhouse gases. And it's critical for this to move the state forward. Without it, without that investment, New Jersey is going to continue to lag. And we're here as the riders of the Lost Ark, waiting for improvements to our train systems, not just keeping them going. And that's the other part, because we have to invest in that future. We have to invest in the Gateway Tunnel, and we have to, because that will mean a lot as far as getting cars off the road and getting people into the city. But more importantly, it means cleaner air, lower greenhouse gases, and a better, more mobile and greener economy. Thank you.
And our last speaker will be Dave Pringle.
Thanks. Again, I'm Dave Pringle with the Clean Water Action, and I'd like to thank everyone for being here, the advocates, especially Speaker Prieto and Chairman Wisniewski. Notwithstanding the governor's head being in the sand, we are in crisis, and it's getting worse. These numbers don't lie. This is shocking. And New Jersey's transportation funding crisis is real, and it's compounding the climate crisis. And replenishing the Transportation Trust Fund to invest in mass transit and fix it first, not sprawl, will not only alleviate both of these crises, but they'll also improve public safety, provide clean air, and is good for the economy. These are good jobs, fixing it first and investing in mass transit. So we urge the governor to come to the table, to invest in mass transit, to invest in fix it first, and to make clean air, jobs, and public safety a priority.
Thank you, and I'd like to, again, thank everybody who's here today who has supported New Jersey for Transit Coalition in this very important issue, and who continues to fight to restore the fiscal solvency for the Transportation Trust Fund and increase the funding for New Jersey Transit operating. Today was a very, very important day in terms of really understanding the impact of our failure to invest in transportation. Earlier this morning, New Jersey Transit revealed their plan for the pending strike, which still leaves tens of thousands of transit riders without an option to get to work. And today we have released this important analysis about what just the repercussions are of our failure to invest and just how poorly we have been investing. So we hope that this will guide the upcoming discussions for the budget for fiscal year 2017 and beyond. We can no longer afford to have these patchwork funding schemes that get us through one year to another. We don't have a long-term plan. We don't have a long-term vision. And that is to the detriment of our economy and our quality of life. So again, we appreciate you sticking around for this press conference, and we'd be happy to take any questions you may have on this or the analysis.
One question, the analysis looks back 15 years.
Yes.
There's been a lot of talk of Governor Christie. There were governors before him. Is it fair to put them in the same category in terms of ignoring proper investment, or does the research find that it's been exaggerated as we've gone through the Christie years?
Well, administration after administration has kicked the can down the road, but the can literally stopped with this administration. This is the highest bonding. I believe this administration has had the highest bonding out of the prior ones since Governor Keene. And Christie's 5-year capital program failed in the second year. He did promise more pay-go, but that didn't happen. So we're really at a crossroads, and we just something needs to be done. And we're at the end of the 5-year capital program that he presented starting in fiscal year 2012. So this is the administration that must deal with this head on. I don't know if anybody else has any.
Other than their biggest expenditure on fixing our mass transit came from the federal monies that came in to replace all the trains that they got destroyed because they left them in the Meadowlands during a storm.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And when you talk about that pay-go, she's right, it was supposed to be $1.8 billion. This is the worst transportation trust fund that literally every penny was borrowed, and we are at over $35 billion in debt now at this point in time, overall in the state.
So, Mr. Speaker, the governor said today, let them pass a bill, if that's important to them to raise the revenue. The assembly has to act first, per the Constitution.
Sure.
At what point do you talk about, we'd rather pass something that he would
Right.
support without, playing this roulette game of seeing what he will sign or not? At what point do you sit down for a meeting,
Yeah.
sitting back and willing to work? Is there any chance of a compromise here, or what does it look like?
Well, I know you came in late. I don't know if you came in after I spoke or you came in before.
I was here for
You were there for the comments that I said, it's disingenuous to say it politely, that it's the onus is on me, that the assembly has to move first. We put a bill. We had been in negotiations, as I said before, and that's what I would like to do, get something accomplished. But you know what? It's going to have to be something that we are going to have to maybe then put on his desk. So obviously, I have to get an identical bill to the Senate. So obviously, I'll have to speak to the Senate president. The one thing that is not acceptable, and that was part of when he came back to us, it cannot be a short-term solution, because that is a problem. We don't have substantial money that clears up from the debt that we have right now. So it's not something that we're going to kick over for just a few years till he leaves office, and then we have to do this again. No, it has to be a substantial amount. We talked about a $2 billion, so we can invest in rail and our road infrastructure, light rail. So we want to make sure we get it the right size. We do a good combination of bonding and pay-go. I've been a very big proponent of a lot of pay-go, but you know what? The Senate President and I have gotten to a good place that we have sort of a compromise to get something of a good balance, but it has to be long-term. And that is the key here. And that's the one thing that I think that's why he's leaving and not coming to the table. So as I read to you when he had said it, so you can see that I'm not saying that he just said this. And I do have some of the ideas that he gave us, that I do have those, so because we were in negotiations until January of 15. So again, I am always willing to negotiate and compromise. But of what I've learned lately, it's my way, the highway, or he's punting it over to on my side, so to put it on us. You know what? everybody's going to use the roads. And I get to tell you, the minority party should learn from what had happened in this election. And that was a referendum on the things that we have done in the last few years. We picked up 4 seats. They should know that it shouldn't be about playing politics to try and use that to us going into the next year, that all into 17, that everybody will be running, so both the Senate and the Assembly. So he is making it political, which that is a shame. What we're talking about here affects everybody's life. It's the road infrastructure, whether it's a speedier ride to your work, or what you spend on on repairs to your vehicle that are due to the road. That is over $600 a year. That is astronomical. So again, I'm willing to work with him and get something accomplished. So we're going to have to then regroup, and whatever we do, Chairman Wisniewski is willing and able to get the Transportation Committee to pass whatever bill. It has to originate in our House. And I have called, like I said, for a gas tax, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's all that it has been. I have said tax fairness all along, that everybody knows. So looking forward to trying getting something accomplished.
And if I could just expand on that, the one thing that's really frustrating is to hear the governor say, well, I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for the legislature to bring me something. Because when it's in his interest, he brings things to the legislature. So what he's clearly doing here is he's saying, I don't care about transportation. This isn't important to me. And when you look at the economic numbers on how much of our state's economy is really derivative of transportation, this is a governor who's basically saying, I don't care about our economy. Now, maybe he's learned these tricks on the campaign trail. Maybe Donald Trump is schooling him on this type of language. But the reality is, there are bills in the legislature that he could point to and say, I'd take that. There are discussions that have been had that he can point to and say, let's move forward. But it's absolute nonsense to say somebody's got to move first before he can make any kind of statement.
And let me just say, if you want to go back to that press conference, take a look at it after he made that statement. And I couldn't really hear the question well, but I believe it was about taxes on hospitals, that he says he is in conversations with the legislature working on that. So you can't have it both ways. You can work on the bills you want, but this, that is a monumental importance to the state of New Jersey, you're going to then try and put it back on me, as a few other things he tried to throw on my lap. But again, I'm fine, but you know what? Let's call a spade a spade. You can't have it both ways. You negotiate on some bills and others you don't. This is the main one you have to negotiate on. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm actually down with